Our first guest tonight knows all about playing tough defense. He was a star in BYU secondary between 1989 and 1992, in addition to his 126 solo tackles and 14 career interceptions, which is tied for fourth all-time at BYU. He was drafted in the fourth round by the Colts, played 6 seasons in the NFL. He and his wife, Vicky, are the co-founders of the Transformation Church in South Carolina. It's a pleasure to welcome our friend Dr. Derwin Gray back to the Wise Guys. What's up, Doc? It's good to see you.
It's good to see you guys too. Y'all are looking good. You representing Texas because you guys know I'm a Texas boy.
Yes, that's right.
From San Antonio. So yeah, it's always good to be with you guys.
Hey,
it's always good to hear familiar voices.
When people introduce you as doctor, do you feel like you should have performed some kind of surgery, or you should tell them, yes, I'm heading to the hospital?
When I think of my academic journey, to be called doctor, coming from a kid that got a 16 on his ACT to get into BYU, just barely, to have a doctor, this is a testimony of God's grace. So I actually talk about it a lot because I want people to know it's not where you start, but it's where you can go, because oftentimes we think our environment can limit us.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, Dewey, that test taking is a skill that you learn. Especially, I feel like the ACT, that's not a test of is this person smart or not. That's not like an IQ test or can this person learn test. It's almost like up to this point, have you had great teachers? Have you been trained to take tests? Have you done all of that? And you mentioned you get a 16. And it's like, obviously, Dewey's not done. Right. But he comes to BYU. He gets people around him that teach him learning methods. He learns how to learn. He's always smarter than heck. Always. Right. And now he has a doctorate degree.
And we're calling him doctor.
And people have to remember that sometimes these tests, these standardized tests, aren't the greatest way. Aren't the greatest way to measure who a person is.
Hey, what'd you think of that defense on Friday night?
You know, I was just so happy because number one, you could tell that Kalani and his staff really worked hard to upgrade the roster. Our guys look like Power 4 players. Our defensive line looked like a Power 4 defensive line. Jack Kelly was running like an SEC linebacker. Glacier, I think his name, number 16, the guy that used to be a receiver. If he stays healthy, he could be a second-round draft pick or higher. Our secondary looked well. What I liked was the defense, number one, was very, very physical. They came with some serious intellectual brutality. Loved it. Secondly, they were disciplined. I didn't see many blown coverages. I didn't see many blown assignments. Thirdly, they were fast. They were running. And then there was a lot of relentless effort, incredible relentless effort on defense. So what that tells me is that the guys are bought in. It tells me that they're being very well coached on the defensive side of the ball. And it tells me that they're taking pride in what they're doing. It was one of the best defensive performances I've seen from a BYU team in a long time, and SMU is going to score a lot of points this season.
Hey, I'm just impressed.
I agree with it.
We've never had the phrase intellectual brutality.
Yeah, I love intellectual brutality.
That just took us to a new place.
I welcome intellectual brutality. Dude, there was a play that just did to me. I was watching yesterday. There was a clip that somebody posted. Crew Wakely came, and he came a little too wide, and so he got kind of bumped into the gap where Taggart was supposed to be. So both of them were in the same gap, and the running back cut it up and got maybe a 14-yard gain. But on the play, he got bounced around behind, missed the tackle, got up off the ground, chased the guy down from behind, and made the tackle 12 yards down the field. And I thought to myself, whoa, that's like a crazy effort. Like you don't see that very often. So my son Gavin was at home, and I said, Gavin, this play by Crew Wakely, like I know you saw this play because you just graded all the film. And he goes, yeah, he went too wide. And so I said, come look at this play, Gavin. So Gavin looks at the play, and he goes, you know what? I'm changing his grade on that play. And I go, can you just change his grade? He goes, yeah, he's getting a minus for his assignment, but we have a little leeway. When somebody like is heroic with their effort, I can overrule it. He goes, I'm thinking about this. I'm giving him a plus on that play. And he gave him a plus on a play where he didn't go he was supposed to because his effort was so good. And I saw a bunch of that. Did you see a lot of that as well?
I did. And I'm so glad that someone like yourself who has, I want to say this very kindly, who has football actual knowledge, you see the game differently. People may have seen a missed assignment, a 14-yard gain, but what you want to build a team with is guys who have heroic effort. And so for the listener, you got to go to the why. Why the Crew Wakely have that kind of effort. And at the end of the day, it comes down to two words. He cares. It's when you care about what you do, you have fanatical, relentless effort. And to me, that's bigger than wins and losses because I'm old school. I believe the effort you give on the field is the effort you're going to give in life. And football, yes, at BYU, I almost won 40 games in 4 years. I got 4 conference championship rings. But, man, there are things that I learned to transcend the field. And so when I watch a game, win or lose, when I see effort like that, that to me is the victory. Heroic, relentless effort. It's like a symphony. It's beautiful.
Dewey, from a safety's perspective, where you played all those years, when you see Jakob Robinson and Marque on the corners making the plays that they are and the backups behind them doing that as well, when that's going on from the corner spot, what does that allow you to do as the safety to be creative back there and become a playmaker, a difference maker?
Yeah, you know, before I get to the corners, the corners live a symbiotic relationship with the defensive linemen. And so even when Collins made that incredible interception, number 94 gave a heroic effort to put pressure on the quarterback. So that's one. Two, Jakob Robinson is special. That young man plays cornerback the way it's designed to be played. And if he ends up with about 4 or 5 more interceptions, you're going to have to put him in the top 5 of corners all time at BYU because he's got 9 interceptions now. That is impressive in this day and age. He's a ball hawk. His technique is great. His effort is great. Collins, the interception he made, man, I looked at that and I said, man, does that kid play for Georgia? Like, does BYU have a kid with athleticism like that? I mean, that was stunning. I mean, he picked that thing and then just stunned it with it. Now, from a safety's perspective, athletically, cornerback is much harder. Safety is a lot more cerebral, but in today's game, you have to be athletic as well. And so when you've got corners that are locking it down, you've got a defensive line that is chasing a quarterback, you got backers that are flying around as a safety, that frees you up to take more calculated risk and to make plays. And so for me, my forte was intercepting the ball. So I had 283 tackles, 14 picks, 25 PBUs, 4 forced fumbles, and 2 touchdowns. And so I wanted to play offense on defense. I want to take the ball, and as a tackler, I wanted to be a secure tackler and then go for the strip. Always think turnover. In today's game, turnovers.
This mentality of this team, as you mentioned, you've got to be smart to play safety, but Jay Hill always also requires those safeties, both the free and the strong, to be physical. And I know you love that because they're very much a part of the run game. Depending on what front they're playing, sometimes that strong safety has to be the edge player or be the force guy. Yep. The free safety in this defense is the alley runner a lot, where they funnel things back to the middle and the middle backer plays inside out and that safety runs downhill and has to hit. After 2 games, what's your thought on these safeties as alley runners and run supporters, along with their responsibility to get everybody lined up and play defense against the pass?
Man, those guys are doing a really good job. They are playing solid. They're not missing many tackles. I'm excited to see what Raider Dumuni is going to be able to do. I think he has some athleticism and twitch that some of the other safeties may not have. And when I say twitch, I mean faster. Like his dad Jack could roll, and so Raider has some speed as well, and he's still knocking some rust off from his mission. But so yeah, I think they've ran the alley well. I want to see them start getting some interceptions, some forced fumbles. We have to play offense on defense, and turnovers are something that you scheme and strategize for as you watch film. And in today's college football, because of the no huddle and wanting to run plays fast, there's not very many plays that an offense will run. So after the first quarter, I can pretty much call most of the plays that are going to take place, because in this day and age of trying to run plays, you can't have a vast array of plays. So therefore, as a defender, you can know how to jump routes. You can know how you're going to feel. And so that's when you really go to the next level, is you say, not only am I going to be a sure tackler, but I'm going to tackle the man and strip the ball, because I'm getting the ball back for my offense.
Former BYU and Indianapolis Colts defensive back Derwin Gray is on the Wise Guys tonight, presented by Brady Plus and distributed by the Deseret News. You had some big nights, 3 interceptions against New Mexico and a pick 6. You had 22 tackles in a game against Penn State. How much fun is it to be flying around back there making plays?
Well, first of all, I'm still sore from having 22 tackles.
And that's too many for a free safety, right, Dewey? That's too many.
People go, man, that's a record for defensive backs. And I'm like, that is one record I wish I did not have, because I still feel those tackles. So here's a funny story about the 3 picks versus New Mexico. So in spring ball of 1990, I was battling Norm Dixon and Josh Arnold for the free safety job. And I felt like I won the job. Coach Tom Homo felt like I won the job, but Dick Felt was the head defensive back coach. So for the first 3 games of that year, I didn't start. But for the first 3 games, I got defensive back player of the game and special teams player of the game 3 games in a row without starting. So finally, they start me against New Mexico. I get 3 interceptions and a touchdown in only 2.5 quarters, and they took me out of the game. I may have had 5. And so after that game, there was never again any conversation about who was the starting free safety at Brigham Young University.
Well, and you were known. I was a great alley runner and a great run supporter. But when I think back on you, I think about roaming in the back end of that secondary and taking great angles and being a great pass defender. What things do you think made you a great pass defender, and what characteristics do players have to have today to be a great pass defender at that safety position?
Yeah, so I think the first thing, and this may seem a little counterintuitive, but I loved my teammates. I loved my coaches. Therefore, I wanted to give my best, and I loved the game. I loved what I did. It was a privilege. It wasn't an entitlement. And because I love my coaches, I love my teammates, and I love the game, that means I had to prepare. I had to practice the way I wanted to play. So after that foundation is set, next it goes into your study and preparation. There's tendencies, there's downs, there's distance. And then lastly, there's confidence. Do you actually believe you can do it? Are you willing to fight through adversity? And once you give yourself over to, I'm present and I'm going to engage, then your natural God-given ability takes over. So you don't rise to the level of the moment. You rise to the level of your preparation. And so I think that's what allowed me to have a very productive and career at BYU.
I think people don't recognize how much that preparation puts you in spots to make plays, and I know you put a ton in. And I don't know if you saw the post game at all, Dewey, that we did, but we talked to I'm losing my mind here. our starting corner. Oh, Collins. We talked to Collins about his pick. And he said, well, funny story about that is we've been working on the different combinations, and I knew they were going to run the post wheel combination. And so I knew I would pass the guy off, and then I would jump back on top of that wheel. And the corner also carried it because he knew what they were doing. And he says, and then the crazy thing is, the morning of the game, my graduate assistant coach that works with corners came to me and said, I had a dream last night, and it was down in this end zone, and they ran that post wheel combination, and you came off and you picked the ball off. Yeah. And so the coach was dreaming about the preparation. The player had prepared. Yep. I mean, when you hear that, does that not give you hope for this defense?
It does. And you want to hear something funny?
Yeah.
The night before I got the 3 interceptions against New Mexico, each one of the interceptions was the way I had dreamed it. And I actually dreamed I had a 4th, but they took me out the game.
They should have left you and you would have had the 4th for sure.
Come on.
I would have had the 4th. Yeah. Yeah. No, but that's what preparation does, is it puts it into your subconscious. And that actually prepares me as a husband, as a father, as a pastor, the same way that I game planned a game is the way I game plan and prepare for life as well. So BYU is a high IQ team. And if we can keep this intensity, and I think it's important for us to keep not a chip on our shoulder, but the Wasatch Mountains on it, because we're already at half of the number of games people said that we would win. And so we need to go into this Wyoming game and not even allow them to think they have a chance. So we have to not overlook them getting ready for Kansas State. We have to go into it with intensity and fire. That right now is the best time to be your best.
I would think after the way the offense looked at SMU that would be their full focus, and grateful to have an opportunity against Wyoming. As Kalani prepares the team for the Cowboys on Saturday, one of the popular questions around Cougar Nation, of course, is about the quarterback. Are you, Dewey, comfortable with Jake Retzlaff at quarterback after the first 2 weeks, or do you want Gary Bohannon to take a few extra snaps this week with the first unit to be on standby? What do you think?
Yeah, so what I look for, particularly in a quarterback, is poise. Poise. So poise is, am I keeping my cool in the midst of chaos? And I knew after the first series that Jake was rattled. And what the coaches did is, I don't know if you noticed this, but in the third and fourth quarter, we basically went to a RPO offense where he was running the RPO, the run pass option. And in my mind, I'm like, well, if we're going to run the RPO offense, why not put in a guy that's 6'2", 6'3", 230 pounds and just actually run it if that's what we're going to do. But last week, Jake was not poised, and I was hoping that the next series poise would come into play because you got jitters and nerves. Yeah. And so if he continues to turn over the ball, let me put it to this way. Our defense has the ability to win us 8 to 9 games.
Amen.
No question. The reality is we need a quarterback who can manage the game and not turn the ball over. That requires poise because our receiving core is deep. We got some dudes at wideout. We got some dudes at tight end. And I'm calling it now. And this isn't even going out on a limb. Miles Davis, if he can just take that one extra step of confidence, that dude might run for 200 yards this game. He is lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good. And now we get to see him and Nawahini, and we hadn't seen him at all. The transfer from Utah State, he looked pretty good at running back. He looked like he was more willing to go downhill, and so yeah, they've. We were talking about this, Dewey, earlier in the show, and I was just saying turnovers is the number one thing. You can be average on offense with a great defense and win a bunch of games. You just can't turn it over because you'll lose games against teams that you're better than if you turn it over.
turnovers are gangrene to the soul of a football team.
Yes, I love it.
Boise,
And,
Idaho. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you go.
I say Boise, Idaho's in the house to listen to you. Lots of folks on here saying we love Dewey, one of our favorite players all time. Orem, Utah in the house as well.
Somebody was bragging about your expertise in fishing.
Yeah, just a
I didn't
moment
know.
ago.
I didn't know that was. Somebody's on here saying Dewey's one of the greatest
I think
fishermen.
that was Les.
Yeah, what lake? Yeah, it was Les Nauman. Guys saying, what lakes has he been out on lately? I didn't know you were such a fisherman.
Oh, I love to fish. Matter of fact, back when I was at the Y, my fellow San Antonio Texian, Ty Detmer, and I used to go fishing down at the golf courses in South Provo.
Oh, down to the old East Bay. Yeah.
Yeah, East Bay, and we would just catch catfish. One time we caught a stringer full of catfish, put them in the back of our truck, came home and said, you know what, let's go throw them back. Drove them back to East Bay, and they all swam off.
Yeah, you can't kill a catfish. No. You can't kill a catfish.
Those catfish are tough.
They were like, "We're waiting you out. We got plenty of oxygen in our lungs."
Brett's
I love to fish.
Oh, that's fun.
That's cool. Brett's on the stream from Melissa, Texas.
Melissa, Texas. I'm not sure where Melissa
Lots
is.
of Texans on here tonight. We also have Perth, Australia, in checking you out, Dewey.
Mark Axel says he has dreams of fishing with a great Dewey Gray one day. So there you go.
Maybe we can make it happen.
Hey, you're going back to Laramie where you won twice, 1990 and 1992. You had a pick in the 90 game, a 45-14 win, and then in 92 it was a little closer, 38-31, 4 solo tackles. What are your memories of playing on the high plains of Laramie that these guys are going to go experience for the first time, really, since 2009?
Well, the first thing was when we get to Laramie, like you walk into your hotel from outside.
Like, yeah, it's a motel.
Like
it's a motel, but they have a couple new hotels now, though.
I mean, maybe they've changed it, but we're like, okay. And then, secondly, the fans were bananas. But in 1990, we got ranked as highest number 4 in the nation. That was the year that we beat Miami.
Yeah.
And we were battling Wyoming for the WAC conference championship. And on offense, we had 756 yards.
Oh, goodness.
I mean, we came ready to play, and we smacked them. My senior year in 92, we started off really slow, and we had to make a comeback. But, man, when we did, we got after those guys. Really did.
Is there anything to this, Dewey, where – you know, they have their sign in the visitor locker room, welcome to 7,000 feet. And, I mean, I guess if you're coming up from the coast, it's a big deal. Did you ever feel it affect you coming where you train at almost 5,000 feet, or does that not a factor?
You know, it didn't really affect us because, you know, we trained pretty high at BYU. But it does have an effect. You know, in 1990, when we beat Miami, Randall Hill, 4-3 guy for the Hurricanes, ran a deep route, and he was going back to the huddle, and he was saying to Tony Crutchfield, our starting corner, he was going, how do y'all breathe here? And that was play one.
Play one?
Wow. That was play one, and we were like, okay, we got a shot. Listen, if we play them 10 times, they may win 9, but all we need is 1.
Yeah, and you
That's
got that
a great
one.
story.
When LaVell said his famous quote in the early 80s, I'd rather lose and live in Provo than win and live in Laramie, do you know exactly what he's talking about?
Yeah, so let me say what I do appreciate about Laramie, Wyoming, is those fans love their Cowboys. And you know what? I respect that. And every time we played there, the fans let us have it. For the most part, the Cowboys were competitive. They had a really good receiver when I was there. His name was Ryan Yarborough.
Yeah.
And Ryan went on to play in the NFL as well. And Ryan and I used to battle. Matter of fact, I talked to Ryan probably a year and a half ago. He's back in Texas. And we were just laughing about the good old days. And in 91, we were playing in Provo, and he ran a quick slant. It was a zero coverage, so I had him in man. he ran a quick slant and he thought he was going to score, and I blasted him and stripped him and recovered the fumble. So I sent him a picture of that and said, "Have a good day."
That's awesome. People forget that game when LaVell it was the quote of the week in Sports Illustrated in '81. But you got to remember, BYU took a nationally ranked team up there with Jim McMahon at quarterback, and before the game, black clouds started to roll in from the west. And by the time the game started, it was snowing. And it was not just snowing, it was snowing sideways. And the players, we all went in the locker room at halftime, and they had 5 inches of snow just on one side, nothing on the other side, because it was snowing sideways. And we were throwing the ball 55 times a game back then. They were running the option back then. So they just optioned the game game long, gave it to the fullback, and we ended up losing the game. And he said that quote after that experience in Laramie. Like, we all agreed 100%. We could never live in that place where it snows sideways like that. So,
former BYU defensive back Derwin Gray on the Wise Guys tonight, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and wiseguys.com. Wise Guys presented by Brady Plus, distributed by the Deseret News. Couple more questions. We'll get to your top 5 quarterbacks all time.
Yeah.
We have an idea who number 1 is, but there's some debate there. But this Thursday down in Arizona, Max Hall's offense goes up against Ty Detmer's offense. Mano a mano. Who's your money on, Max or Ty?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, guys, I mean, I'm from San Antonio with Ty. I played with Ty, so I'm going to go with Ty. Period. Even if all the evidence was to the contrary, I'm going with my boy Ty Detmer.
Yeah, understood.
You've gotten to know Kalani quite well, and of course you play with Coach Edwards, who's just was one of the greatest of all time. What do you see in Kalani that you saw in Coach Edwards?
You know what I see in Kalani that I saw in Coach Edwards is that Kalani loves his players. Coach Edwards from the outside, he would have this scowl on his face, and I mean, you just thought he was angry, but he was one of the funniest human beings you could ever be around, and he genuinely loved his players, and you wanted to play for him. So many of us, he was a father figure for us. Like, he was more than a coach. And so I think you see that in Kalani as well, the way the players are endeared to him. I think you see that in some of the ways that Kalani gambles on 4th down and does some of those types of things. And I think you see it in the way Kalani loves BYU. And so much of what Kalani does in the imprint of Coach Edwards is on him, and he wants to recreate a part of that.
Dewey Gray with us. By the way, Dr. Ketch from Vegas on the live stream said, we knew, capitalizing knew, you would go with Ty, Dewey. So
yes,
the scouting report is out. I have a feeling Ty is going to be at the top of this list, too. 5 Questions is presented by Strategy Square, delivering connection, clarity, and confidence in business and marketing strategies. Tonight, Dr. Derwin Gray is going to reveal his top 5 BYU quarterbacks in program history. Blaine, you're going to start him 5 through 1?
Let's go 5 through, because we want to save the best for last. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we'll start with number 5. Who you got?
I'm going to go with Steve Sarkisian, who is crushing it at the University of Texas. And Steve Sarkisian arguably led the greatest BYU football team ever, the 96 team, to a victory over Kansas State. And so Steve Sarkisian is number 5. Do you want me to go to number 4?
No, yeah, go right for it. And by the way, his senior season, wow.
Fantastic.
Like, he was lights out. He should be in that top 5. Okay, and then who you got for 4?
Yeah, for 4, I'm going to go with the one and only Jim McMahon.
You got McMahon at 4? Okay.
I have Jim McMahon at number 4.
Wow.
Yes,
All
I
right.
have Jim McMahon at number 4. Jim is a trailblazer. He's phenomenal. At number 3, I'm going to go with Steve Young at number 3. Steve Young is now, I'm not counting the NFL career.
Right, this is college. We get that, yeah. Because Steve Young is the greatest NFL quarterback in BYU history. It's not close. We all agree on that, right?
Yeah, so Steve could have been in the NFL in multiple positions. He's that great of an athlete. And by the way, I intercepted Steve Young in 1995. So I just want everybody to know.
Right?
Yeah. We beat the 49ers, and I played a key role in that. Picked him off. It was a great day in my life. Number two.
Hang on. Let's add some drama here.
Yeah.
First of all, we're going to hopefully have Steve on later in the month. We're going to ask him about that experience.
He won't remember me.
he just might. So, of the top 5, number 5, Steve Sarkisian, number 4, Jim McMahon, number 3, Steve Young. That's an interesting group up there because a lot of those guys would be 2.
Two of those guys were Pro Bowlers, right? But we're not counting pros.
We're talking
college.
Although Jim McMahon did have 34 NCAA records after his junior year before he even suited up as a senior.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now that sets the stage.
Here we go. 2-1 is going to be big here. Okay.
Number 2. I'm going with the national championship quarterback, Robbie Bosco.
All right.
Robbie led us to a natty.
And was Robbie was coaching the quarterbacks when you were there, wasn't he?
He was.
Yeah, there you go. So you know him as a player and as a coach.
And I know him as a kid in 8th grade who was watching these ESPN games, and I would see this team called BYU playing, and I seen a guy named Robbie Bosco throwing the ball all over the place, and that put a seed in my mind about BYU, which would turn into who I am today. Yeah,
wow,
and so
there you go.
And so I mean the man led us to a natty. So I mean he's got to be number 2, and then number 1, I'm going with the one and only skinny kid from San Antonio, Texas, the original gunslinger, Ty Detmer.
We knew Ty would be, and it's hard to argue with the Heisman Trophy. That's for sure.
I mean, the man threw for 432 yards a game the year he won the Heisman Trophy. He was able to just do some incredible things, orchestrated the victory against University of Miami. And so I know those picks are somewhat controversial, and I don't throw any shade against the incredible Jim McMahon or the incredible Steve Young. I just think what Robbie Bosco did in leading us to win a natty and Ty Detmer leading us to win a Heisman is quite remarkable. But of those 5, you can pretty much flip it any kind of way except for maybe Sarkisian, and you're okay with a top 5. But that's just my little old top 5.
I love it.
Dewey, the fact that you helped Ty win that Heisman Trophy, does that skew the list?
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, I'm not being I mean, Ty is my guy, but no other BYU quarterback, no other BYU player has won a Heisman, right?
Yeah, and we hate to point this out, but no Utah players ever won a Heisman Trophy either.
True.
We try to point that out every time we talk about Ty's Heisman, that no Utah players ever won a Heisman.
But think about it, too. To get that Heisman, you had to beat Miami. Defense had to have their finest hours a whole bunch of times through that season.
We did. We had a great game plan against those guys. And Irvin Lee, my fellow Texan, I mean, he had the game of his life. Irvin Lee went crazy. Our defensive line went crazy. That was one of those moments where, from the fans to the coaches to the air we breathe, everything was won.
Yeah. And
we were not going to lose. And what a lot of people don't know is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was like a third-string defensive tackle.
That's right.
The Miami Hurricanes that game. So there's one thing that I'm better than The Rock at.
Is there any question that that's BYU's greatest win ever? Is that BYU's greatest win?
You know, I'm partial to the national championship, obviously, even though I didn't play on that team. But for us to have defeated that star-studded defending national championship Miami Hurricane team, and that was in the heyday of Miami being Miami. And I cannot think of a more scintillating victory in the history of BYU. And man, as a sophomore, I got to be a part of it.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody would argue that's the most talented team BYU's ever beaten, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, what's your latest book? What do you got going on we can pitch here tonight?
Yes, so my latest book is called Lit Up with Love, Becoming Good News People in a gospel-starved world. And so this book, number one, is for people who want to grow in their love for Christ. This book is for people who want to grow as a follower of Christ. And this book is for people who want to reach others with the gospel of Christ. And so I see so many people complaining about how bad our culture is, and they're waiting for politicians to do what Jesus asked his people to do. People who are in the White House, they don't change hearts. The gospel changes hearts. And I wish more people were preoccupied with being so in love with Jesus that they wanted the world to experience that love. So that's why the book is called Lit Up with Love. And people can go to derwinlgray.com/lit up with love, derwinlgray.com /lit up with love. And so my son Jeremiah is in law school at Penn Cary Law, number 4 law school in the country. And so all the proceeds go to needy children, primarily my own. So go ahead and pre-order.
I love it.
That's outstanding. And something tells me there has to be a couple football references in that book somewhere, right? There's always a lesson
There's
from
something
your
to be learned.
heyday.
That's for sure. So
Heck yeah.
That's good.
Football is it's in my DNA, and to me, football is such a precursor for life. Everything that you want to learn about life, you can learn from playing. As a pastor of a church of 9,000 people, the lessons that I learned from Coach Edwards, my high school coach, NFL coaches, all those things that I've learned have made me a more effective leader. Like Coach Edwards was great at delegation, vision, inspiration, delegation, coaching his coaches, right?
Yeah.
My high school coach was great at vision. Some NFL coaches were great at time management and organization. And so football to me is a precursor for life.
Fantastic. Hey, give Vicky our best. We're glad that we could steal you away for a few minutes on a Monday
we always
night.
love having you.
Appreciate it, guys. You have a good one. Go Cougs.
Hey, what's your score for Saturday?
Yeah,
what do you
give
got?
us a score for BYU.
Oh,
Wyoming.
man. I just think we're going to have an offensive explosion, 38-10 BYU.
38-10. I like it.
38-10. We're going to revisit 38-10 next Monday
Okay.
night.
Dewey says 38-10. I believe it.
Hey, we appreciate you, Dewey. Appreciate how you represent always, and we're so we're lucky to have you on the show. And these Texas, that part of you is we're wearing
right.
these. This is part of our honor too. Part of our tribute to you wearing the Texas.
Yeah, Derwin was BYU Texas. He was.
BYU Texas.
I was.
Thanks,
Texas
brother.
Pipeline.
See you later.
See you.
All right.
Thanks.
The great Derwin Gray live back in South Carolina.